morning, everybody. Welcome to the Knitting TurnPike. My name is Gina Pike. We're so happy to have you here today for a live show. Today, we're going to be having a very exciting, different format today. Today, we're going to be interviewing Irina Shaar of FiberChats. Good
Hi,
morning, Irina.
hi everyone.
It's so nice to have you here today. What we're going to be doing, let me do a little bit of housekeeping first, and then we'll get into the interview. And I want to encourage you guys that are here for the live show. If you have any questions for Irina, for me, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat below. You can, we will answer them as many as we can. If I, you know, if the chat's moving too fast and I don't see it, please feel free to type it again. We want to answer your questions. I have some questions for Irina as well, and we want that interaction with you guys. And if you are on replay, feel free to put comments down in the comments below as well, and I will get these to Irina and she can answer them as well. And just so happy to have you here today, and happy for everybody here. Also, one more thing, if you do need a link dropped, I do have one moderator here, supposedly another moderator showing up. Kaz Oceanaholic is my moderator. You can if you need to mention something about your channel, go ahead and mention it. You put a CC in your comment, and Kaz will try to drop your link. Um, so just wanted to mention that. We are a community here that likes to share and support each other. So if you need something like that, please feel free to do that. So let's go ahead and get into it this morning. It's so nice to have you here. Irina and I met on Instagram a few years ago. I've been a big admirer of your work.
Thank you.
You're such an amazing lace knitter. When I grow up, I want to knit like you. You just have beautiful work, and we're going to show some of that. She's also doing a new YouTube channel. Well, it's not new. It's been over about a year now.
It's
It's
gonna be a year in June, yeah. So like getting to be there.
You're getting almost to a year, and it's called FiberChats. And we'd love for you guys to check it out. The link to her channel is at the top of the chat, and it's also down in the description box below. And what Irina does, I'm gonna let her you explain it a little bit better, but you interview a lot of different fiber artists.
Right. So basically, like the idea for the channel was, I mean, I have to back up a little bit. So
Right.
last year, a friend of mine, good friend of mine, David Van de Bel, he's Van de Kamp. So he is a budding designer, and I met him on Instagram as well. And at that point, he was just working on the shawl, and I was like, are you going to publish it? And he was like, well, I never thought about it. And I helped him to find testers. I helped him to connect with like the groups on Facebook. And so he published his first pattern, and I was tester for him. And I was trying to post those, my test knit of his pattern in different Facebook groups. And I got removed from some groups because they were like, you're trying to promote, you're trying to self-promote. And it really sort of annoyed us, me and him as well, because he was trying to make a name for himself, right? He was trying to show his new designs. And I was trying to help a fellow knitter.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing in it for me, just like trying to help another talented young designer. And so we were talking about it and said, well, why wouldn't we start our own group where everybody can self-promote, where people can put their yarn or their knitting, their stores, needles, whatever like they want to sell, their podcasts. Mm-hmm. And so we started the group on Facebook called Knitters Gonna Knit. And I want to invite you guys all to join because it's a wonderful group. Where you can not only find inspiration from very experienced knitters, but there's a lot of like brand new knitters who ask questions. There are some designers who are looking for testers. There are people who always wanted to test knit, but didn't know how to find those designers. Mm-hmm. So there's like all these test calls. And then we have a lot of yarn dyers. So the designers find collaborations with the new yarn for them, yarn dyers. Mm-hmm. At some point I was thinking, well, I want to help somehow to create the sense of community. What can I do? So I figure I'm going to try interviewing different fiber artists and introducing them to my followers on Instagram. And that's how it started. So I started on Instagram, but then I quickly realized that YouTube was a better platform for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you've interviewed some really amazing people. I mean, some really famous, but it's not just knitters. You've done quilters, um, uh, embroiderers. I watched a show just the other day about a lady who knits with glass.
Right.
That was very interesting. And so you're doing a wide range of people. Um,
I mean, if you think about it, most of us, not only knitters, like most of us dabble in other fiber arts. Like when I was younger, I used to do cross stitching. Then I was playing with crochet for a bit. So it's
mhm,
like you have your own way until you get to what really makes you most happy. And sometimes you need to take a break from it and try something else and like try different fiber arts. So I didn't want to limit fiber chats to just knitting, even
mhm,
though this is what I predominantly do right now. I wanted to invite all different kind of fiber artists, and I also wanted to show that we have tons in common. Like we all have the same frustrations. We all deal with how to market ourselves. We all deal with like moments when we don't feel like doing anything, right?
mhm. Right, absolutely. So how did you let's go back a little bit. How did you were you always exposed to like fiber arts? Did your parent, your mom, your grandmother, did they do it, or how did you
Right.
come into that?
Well, my grandmother was extremely handy. She was a seamstress. I mean, she was an accountant, but seamstress on the side because they had a large family. So she needed to make some a little bit extra money for the family. So she was a seamstress. She also knew how to crochet and knit.
Mhm,
And so did my mother and my aunt. But interestingly enough, like my mother was born right after the Second World War. So for her, all the handicrafts was sort of like representation of poverty, and she didn't want to do that. She didn't want me to do that. So when I was growing up, my grandmother actually, like when I was 7 or 8 something, showed me how to knit and purl.
mhm.
Then I came home from summer break and I was like knitting that scarf, and my mom walked in and was like, just go play, like why are you wasting your time? And so it's sort of like I never have done it like until 5 years ago, when a friend of mine was pregnant with her fourth and, as she assured, last child, and she said that she never had a baby shower. And I was like, okay, you know what, let me organize baby shower for you. And I was thinking, what can I make for the baby that's going to be special?
Mhm.
So I went on YouTube and I saw somebody knitting these little cute booties, and I was like, okay, let me try. Like I used to do that when I was little, so maybe I can remember how to do it. And it was like riding a bike. It was like this muscle memory, even though I probably knitted for like 3 weeks as a child, but somehow it came like right back to me. So that's how I started.
Wow, that's great. I love that. I didn't grow up with it, so I'm always fascinated when I hear that there's an exposure to it. So it's I wish that I had had that, but my mom is so funny. She's like I try to sit with her because she'll like, oh, I love that, and I'll work with her a little bit, and she's like, nah, you can just do it for me. I'm like, okay. We tried. It didn't work out. Um, so you started Fiber Chats, and I wanted to also kind of ask you a little bit about that, about maybe the process of how you do that. How do you go about picking who you're going to interview, and the process? Does it take a long time to put a show like that together? Because I know what it is to edit and film and stuff like that. How has it been doing all that?
So it's definitely been like an interesting journey. So I start with the first people that you would see on my channel, the first like 11 episodes basically happened live on Instagram. And all those people were people that I knew from Instagram. Like some of them were friends, some of them I just admired for a long time. Like I interviewed Hazel Tyndall, who is like this amazing Shetland Fair Isle knitter, and she's an instructor, designer, like lovely, lovely lady. And she's one of the fastest people in the world as far as knitting. Like she actually holds a record for it.
Wow.
And when I asked her, it was sort of like, I mean, it was like, asking Elvis to come to your show. Like it was like that to me. And I was sure that she'll just ignore my message. And she responded like immediately. And she was like, sure, I'd love to do that. I actually a huge admirer of your lace. And I was like, oh my God, Hazel Tyndall knows me. So I mean, so it started basically like I didn't want to go after just very famous people. I wanted to give the platform to the people who didn't have huge following,
Mhm,
to just people that I find like extremely inspiring, interesting, who do something like outside of the box. So,
mhm,
like for example, one of the first people that I asked was my friend Grant Mahi. So he's a knitter from New Zealand.
mhm,
Honestly, like he's probably like one of the most amazing human beings on the planet. Like the guy is he's a hairdresser. He used to make his own ballroom gowns for his partner with
mhm.
all the sequencing and everything. He can spin finest yarn. He can knit Shetland lace. He can weave with the flax. He can collect the flax and like process it. So it's like, I mean, the amount of talent in his body, like I'm joking often that it's bigger than like some of the countries in the world.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I bet I know you've interviewed a lot of people that I really admire. Like I love Rami Hill, and she was on your show, and Stephen West, and just I enjoy watching all of your videos. Um, there are some questions coming in, and I want to say welcome in to everybody coming in today. I appreciate you guys being here. We're happy to have you here. Please don't hesitate to ask questions of us. We're going to be taking questions from the chat as we can, so please don't hesitate to ask questions. And of Irina, mostly Irina, not me. But if you want to ask me a question, I'll take it as too. Let's see. One of the questions that somebody asked already was that, are you like a monogamous knitter? Do you work on one project at a time, or do you like to work on multiple projects?
So this is like a funny sort of evolution in my life because I started as a monogamous knitter. Like I would
Mhm,
start the project and I would be like a little French bulldog, like at it until I'm done.
mhm,
And even though like I enjoyed the process of the knitting, it was more of like getting to the end, getting the thing in my hands, like showing people that like here, this is what I had done, right? And then slowly and steadily somehow it turned to be I still don't have 14 whips. Like I still probably like have 2 to 3 projects at the most going on at the same time, but it's like graduated to three projects at this right now. And I at some point like a couple years ago I started doing a lot of test knits,
mhm.
and so that sort of pushed me to try multiple projects because I would do something for the test, but then I also would want to something else just for myself. So that's
Mhm.
how it started.
Well, Kaz was asking, that's amazing. Kaz was asking, do you ever lose motivation to finish a project since you're using such fine yarns?
Right. So like this is the show that I just finished.
Oh
It's
my goodness. Let me put you on solo so everybody can see that. It's just so pretty.
it's really
Ah,
huge. It's like it's almost like 8 feet long and 6 feet deep. Um, So this show, there is an episode on my channel that's going to be posted tomorrow about this show and 3 other shows that Monique Boonstra, who is the designer for this show, created. And we're going to go into whole construction of the shows,
mhm,
um, what yarn we used. Like there's a couple test knitters that also joined that conversation, so you'll see like a glimpse of into their life. I almost gave up on the show 17 times. I told Monique, I'm sorry, I'm failing this test. It just sometimes, especially with COVID and everything that's going on, I feel like Shetland lace, when you do find lace, it requires sort of some sort of like mental peace.
mhm,
It requires this like it's very relaxing, it's meditative, but it's also requires you not to think about other things, like you
mhm.
need to concentrate on what you're doing, otherwise things will not look pretty. So I started and then we had a flood in my house. My family got COVID 3 times because my husband was working through COVID. So he kept bringing different strengths of COVID home, and then the kids were getting it. So there was like so much going on that I just like found it really difficult to concentrate on it. And all I wanted to do was knitting something like super simple that didn't require me to think about it, just something relaxing. But then when you're in a test group and you see other testers plowing through and sticking to it and doing it, it made me think, you know what, I just should finish it. So at some point I just like put everything aside and I decided that until I'm finishing it, I'm not going to touch anything else. And that somehow was enough motivation for me to finish this thing. So yes, to answer the question, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. Like when it's fine to not to feel like it. It's fine to put it aside. And sometimes like things just don't work out and you need to put it in a naughty corner for a while and like come down and like start missing it again.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens.
Yeah, it does. So do you test knit a lot for other designers?
I do. Like I think last year I have an episode on my channel, the summary of my last year knitting, and I think it was 20 of the things were test knits out of everything I made. So
Oh my goodness.
I do test knit a lot. And it's another way, like basically like the reason I like test knitting is I feel like it's another way for me to connect with designers, and it's another way for me to help the community. Like if I can help promote their designs, if I can help show it on my platform, it makes it that much easier for them. So I mean, and I have some favorites that I do a lot of testing for, and then some that I'm like dreaming to test for. So I sometimes I'm like, even if I interview somebody and I'm like, listen, if you ever stuck for testers, like I'm
Yeah, I'll be first in line. And Vita's asking, what which is the best place to sign up for test knits? What have you found more successful?
So again, like I invite all of you to join Knitters Gonna Knit on Facebook, because we get test calls all the time there. So it's the easiest way. But also, like I find Instagram in general, a lot of people would offer test knits. There is also test knitting groups on Ravelry. If you on Ravelry, you can check there. Like if you just put test knits in search, there is usually all the test calls there. But I find the most pleasurable test knits is when you have some sort of relationship with the designer, because it just like brings you that much closer.
I bet. Yeah, I've only done one test knit, and it was pretty recent in January, and so it was interesting. I did feel more. I felt like I needed to work on that project a lot more, so that they were waiting for me, you know. So I did get it done pretty quickly, but it was a fun process. I would definitely like to do it again. And
well, also like if you're considering test knitting, you should think that like who is making perfect test knitter, right? And I ask designers on my channel a lot, like who is your ideal test knitter? And the funny part that I find that my inexperience in knitting often makes me a better test knitter, because like if I'm learning something new, like, and there's like, I'll give you an example. So I was test knitting for Julie Knits in Paris, and she asked me, so she added me to, she has a so-called dream team, which is like her core test knitting group. So I was added to the dream team, and she asked if I want to knit a sweater. I never knitted a sweater until then. So I was like, well, yes, but like I don't have any experience with knitting sweaters. I know nothing about sweater knitting. She's like, perfect. Here's the pattern. And not only I learned how to knit sweaters through this test knit, but also like what wasn't obvious to me and what I had to ask her wouldn't be obvious to other beginners, and they would ask the same thing. So by clarifying it to me and by rewriting the pattern in a way that was understandable for me, she made it easier to understand for all other beginners. So like if you're a beginner knitter and you're thinking about test knitting, there is a value to that for the designers.
well, that's good to know, because I'm a very beginner knitter, and
I don't know. I saw your lace. You are very capable.
uh, Thank you. That's very, very kind, especially coming from you. But I mean, it's actually been 8 years, so I do not. There's a lot of things I'm still learning, and I learn every day,
But
right?
that's how knitting is. Like you think you know something, but then there are people like Monique Boonstra. Monique Boonstra can take any kind of like museum
Hmm.
Shetland lace piece and she can read it like a book. She can look at it and she can understand how that pattern was created.
Hmm.
I cannot do that, right? But I can do brioche and Monique Boonstra doesn't know that. So like a lot of people that like they concentrate on one thing and they're experts at that. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have nothing to learn in other areas of knitting. So knitting is like beautiful that way because you can learn something all your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well said. I love that. Um, let's do a favorites question because I had like a favorite. I have these kind of like broken out into projects. Do you have a favorite project that you've ever made?
Oof. Well, that's tough. So there's a
I know.
it's like choosing a favorite child. So one of my favorites is this shawl. And
Oh, that's so pretty. Let me put you on. That's one of the ones I used for the thumbnail, right?
right. So it's called the third one, and I was a tester for that as well.
Oh, so pretty.
And it's knitted with merino. There is 3,500 meters per 100 grams merino on 1.75 millimeter needles.
Wow.
And the thing that first of all, I love those trees. Like if you look right here, you see the tree.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably like one of the most difficult Shetland lace segments to do the tree. Like basically, like they tell you, like if you know how to do the tree, you're graduating into the like higher levels of Shetland lace. But what I love about this shawl that if you look at the center, it's just like so intricate and so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a lot of Shetland lace shawls, they have beautiful borders, but like when it comes to the center, it's just becoming like little motifs and it's like more plain. This one
Mm-hmm.
is just like spectacular in the center. So this is probably one of my all-time favorites.
Who is the designer on that one?
This is A Passion for Lace,
Okay, Monique.
Boomstra. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that was
gorgeous.
that's the third one, and it's actually like in tomorrow's episode on the four shawls. This is one of the shawls we're talking about.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Because these
I
are her.
love this shawl. This is like one of my newer favorites. So this is a shawl that I test knitted for Julie Knits in Paris, and it calls Bubbly.
I have a video clip if you want. I mean, it's you holding it so we can see a little bit different angle. If you want to talk over the clip, you
Sure.
can. So, but that's it.
Right. So you can see that it's brioche and it's two different colors. So the one on the front is the burgundy on top,
Mm-hmm.
and then the back is like mostly blue. So you
Wow.
get like two different looks from the same shawl. So it's completely reversible. You can
Oh,
wear it as a blue one or as a burgundy one. Like
oh, it's so beautiful. I can't imagine brioche lace.
I mean, that was like super fun. And Julie is amazing at explaining how to do brioche.
Mm-hmm.
She's also really good instructor. So she has like some videos on how to fix brioche, how to catch mistakes in brioche. So like once you become familiar with brioche, it's becoming your friend, you know.
Right, right. Here's a good question. Debbie Perea is saying, who is a designer you'd like to test for?
Well, I actually was trying to heavily hint to Olga Jazzy, so I interviewed her recently, and she's very good friends with Stephen West, and they actually did recently also a shawl together. They collaborated on the design and they published the shawl together, which has also had some brioche in it. Um, she's just brilliant design. Like I think there are a lot of very talented designers out there,
Mhm.
and a lot of people they'll take some motifs from like the Stitch dictionary and they incorporate it in their shawls, and then there are designers like Stephen West or like Olga Jazzy who just completely like revolutionize the whole world of design.
Absolutely.
She does this 3D designing that makes basically like she gets inspired by the strangest thing like toilet paper or upholstery on chairs, and she recreates it in knitting by creating this like 3D effects on the design, just like absolutely amazing.
Wow.
So
I did get to see a little bit of that interview. I wanna go back and finish watching it, but yeah, her designs are so, interesting and beautiful, you know?
I
Yes.
really think she's like one of the most like influential designers of today, just because like her stuff is something you don't see anywhere else. Like you would see her design and you would know it's her design just by the look of it.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. And Vita is asking, what is the, heaviest weight of yarn that you've worked with?
Well, I did work with bulky weight, but honestly, like I find that the heavier the weight of the yarn, the more it hurts my hand somehow, like if I work with it for extended period of time. So if you look at my yarn collection,
Mhm,
90% of it is fingering and thinner.
mhm.
Whenever designers ask me to, like, do you want to test something in decay, do you want to test something in worsted, I'll have to buy that yarn. Like I don't have it in, like I have very limited amount of decay even in my collection, so most of it is finer yarn.
Oh, so okay, so the yarn behind you, is that just a portion of your stash, or is that, like, most of your stash?
Yeah, this is like the best part of my stash. Then there is like some loose things, you know, like little leftovers or something like bulkier that I don't keep here. This is like my mostly fingering collection.
Do you have a favorite color you like to work with, or you like them all?
Well, at some point, David Van de Kamp, the my co-founder of Knitters Gonna Knit, start calling me Smurfette for my love of blue.
I
Like,
was thinking it was blue. I was trying to remember because I remember we did the Instagram things and you shared that. I was thinking it was blue, so
he even actually designed a scarf, and it's called Smurfette scarf in my honor. So he did like two shades of different turquoise, blues, and some yellow and white there. So yeah, like I've been made fun of like for the
aw.
because my Instagram feed at some point it was like entirely blue basically.
Well, I get the same for pink. I love the pinks. So, yeah, I totally understand that. Um, have you do you ever take like any knitting classes, or are there any like thing that you might ever want to do, like something like that?
I do sometimes. I'm not like I've taken some classes at Rhinebeck at the festival,
Hmm.
and I also took Tunisian crochet class with Padma R through the Vogue Knitting, and I took a class on different braiding with tennis gray.
Hmm.
So yes, but I also find that YouTube is such a wonderful place. So one of the people I interviewed is Suzanne Bryan, and Suzanne has a huge channel, Knitting with Suzanne Bryan. There's like 100,000 or over 100,000 subscribers at this point. And if you guys ever need any kind of technique, any tip on like how to not to have holes in the socks or on the sleeve of your sweater or something, like Suzanne is just the most perfect source for that. So she has tutorials. She's a hand master knitter from the Knitting Guild Association, and she has tutorial on like every technique in the world basically, like as far as,
Wow.
so I haven't found anything that she doesn't have yet. If you do find it, send her a message. I'm sure she'll make another video for that as well.
Wow.
I find that if I get stuck on some technique, or if I need to learn something quick,
Hmm.
YouTube is usually very fast and efficient in that regard.
Absolutely. That's how I learned to knit was
Right.
YouTube videos. So, absolutely, I agree with that 1,000,000%. With your projects, I know you gift a lot. I've seen that you gift them to your friends and your family. Do you find that you keep most of them? I mean, how many do you keep and how many do you gift roughly percentage wise?
I'd say like 90% of everything I make goes to somebody.
Yeah.
So they're not always people I know.
Hmm.
Sometimes I do giveaways where I give away my shawls to just whoever is going to win it. And sometimes like people would ask me, like I had a friend who wrote to me and he said that somebody in his family was dealing with the loss of a loved one, and
Hmm.
he wanted to give her a prayer shawl, but he didn't have anything at the moment. Like, do I have anything? So I send it to him. So things like that.
Aw.
Like if I see I'm talking to somebody on Instagram or like over Messenger, and they would tell me something, and I feel like they need this virtual hug. I'll ask
Aw.
their address and I'll send them something.
That's so nice. I love that. I'm gonna enter to win one of your shawls. They're gorgeous. Debbie Loves Yarn is asking, "Are you a continental knitter?" And she also asked the other day um, uh, about what made you go towards like Shetland lace. We know you love Shetland lace, so if maybe you could answer those couple together, if you don't mind.
So I am a continental knitter, and I find that um, it's really like very efficient in the movement.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more so than, even though like Hazel Tyndall would disagree with me because she is English style knitter and she is faster than me by much, but I find that it's like it requires much less movement. So if you have arthritis, if there's any issues with your hands, it's actually like less impact on your hands with continental. So if you're struggling through that, give continental knitting a try. You might find it easier. As far as Shetland Lace, that was like a funny story. So I was on Instagram and I stumbled on Monique Bunster's account, and it was so beautiful, like all that lace. And I was like, what is it? And she said, well, it's Shetland Lace. So I was like, I never heard of Shetland Lace. Well, what do I do when I don't know? I go to the library. So I went to the local library and I said, do you have any books on Shetland Lace? And they had one book. So the book was by Elizabeth Lovick. It's
Right.
called The Magic of Shetland Lace. And on the cover of it was a heart
This one,
it's
or another version of it?
yeah,
Whoops.
this one.
Okay.
So this heart shawl, I was like, oh my God, it's so pretty. I want to knit it. And nobody explained to me that Shetland lace was difficult. So I just started knitting it. That was my first Shetland lace shawl. And you know what I have to tell you? When I interviewed recently Elizabeth Lovick,
Mm-hmm.
that was like the biggest celebrity crush moment for me ever, because I couldn't even concentrate on what questions I wanted to ask her. I just kept telling her how much I love her. I feel like she really changed my life and she empowered me to do something that like brings me so much joy.
Absolutely.
I blame my Shetland lace addiction on Monique Bunster and Elizabeth Lovick together.
dual responsibility there. I love that. Let's see, Rachel O'Connor, Creative Yarnaholic, is saying, will you release the pattern you created? I think.
Well, okay, so Rachel is talking about the shawl that I knitted last year, and I was basically contemplating like what makes a design, like what's an original design and what's like just repurposing something that already exists. And I asked that question a lot of designers, and there is really no right or wrong answer, because if you just create something, even if you use the motif from here and motif from there, even if you just take different colors from your head, or like you're using different combination, it's an original design. So I knitted the shawl. Hold on, let me see. I don't. Oh, I see it. Can I get it?
Yeah, absolutely. We are in no time limits. We set the time limits here.
So this is
Here, let me put you on solo so everybody can see it really well with me. And let me hide that real quick. Oh, that's beautiful.
So basically, I had this yarn for a few years and I didn't know what to do with it. And I was like, I tried different lace motifs with it. I didn't really show any lace because it was so busy. So I decided I'm just gonna like make plain triangular shawl, but then it was getting boring. So I was like, well, what if I added like a little lacy border? And then I was thinking that looks more like fall design. So I added the leaf edging to it.
It's nice.
Turn into the shawl. The problem is since I wasn't planning to, I just wanted to see if I'm capable of designing something, but
Mhm.
I wasn't really taking detailed notes. I don't know what I did there. For me to publish this design, I would have to like go back to it and like re-knit it again and see exactly like how many stitches and everything. And
Mhm.
so I decided not to do that because I'm really not a fan of knitting something more than once.
Yeah, me either. Yeah.
And so for now, I'm not publishing it just yet.
Well, she's giving you heart. She's ready to do that, and it is beautiful. So
I love
we.
it. She's so supportive. She connected me with so, and this is how like this is to answer back to your question of how I find people. Like Rachel is one of my first fans basically of my channel, and she connected with me with so many people. She would like send me like, have you thought about asking this person or that person, or you might find these people interesting. And so this is like a lot of times this is how I find people for my channel.
Mhm.
um, and I also ask like everybody who comes to my channel, I always tell them, if you think somebody can benefit from talking to me, send them my way. Or if you know somebody who is super interesting and you think like I need them on my channel, send them my way. So this is a lot of people became like, I found them like that.
Well, we're having another person, and Vita is saying she would love to test knit for you.
Thank you.
So you can connect with Irina and Vita. And Vita's in India, and she's been one on my channel for a while, and she's a great knitter as well. So
Yeah.
y'all can connect.
Yeah, if
Let's.
you guys want to email me something, like if you want to connect, it's fiberchats@gmail.com. So like feel free to.
And that is also in the description box below as well. So just in case you didn't catch that, let's see. I think we've been doing pretty good about that. Okay, dream project. If you had all the time in the world, you didn't have anybody pulling on you, what do you think you would try to do?
um well, I feel like I'm doing it anyway.
Okay, okay, that's
Like
good.
I'm not waiting for that perfect moment. Like I'm just the issue I find with myself is to remind myself that it's not a job. It's
Mhm.
like in reality, it's still a hobby and it's something that's supposed to bring joy. So anytime I'm getting stressed, I'm getting like, oh my God, I can't do it. I have to like remind it to myself and like, you know, relax a little bit, and then somehow everything falls into place. So I feel like I'm not waiting for the right moment for anything. Like if something catches my interest, I'm just knitting it.
That's good. I really like that. I'm kind of the person that will save a yarn for a rainy day, and then it's like been there for a few years, and it's like, why don't I just use it, instead of just waiting? So I like that. I like that a lot. It's, take advantage of the time we have, and time is short, so might
Well,
as well.
like I find yarn collecting to be a completely separate hobby from knitting for me.
That's
Because
true.
I most of the time, like 90% of the time, I just buy yarn because I love yarn and I don't
Mhm.
have a specific project in mind. So the only thing I learned that like I need to buy two skeins of each yarn just in case. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of patterns will like even if for the larger shawl, like you'll need two colors. And I'm a very loose knitter. So even if the pattern says you need one skein, there is a chance that I'm gonna run out of yarn and I'll need two skeins. So this is like my only adjustment.
Absolutely. The only yarn chicken I like are these that are on my wall that are made out of yarn. I don't like the other at all. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And it's interesting because like this particular shawl, I ran out of yarn. But luckily, I ran out of yarn right at the last row, so just for the edging. And
Mhm.
I actually ordered. I'm gonna bring it closer so you guys can see.
Yeah. Okay. Here.
I ordered the yarn, and it's same yarn, but it's a different dye lot, and you can see how different the edging color from the main color. So
But
it's
it looks,
three
it looks,
shades lighter, basically.
but it actually looks really good. It's like it's
Right. So
knit
it
to finish
seemed
it.
like little, punch of color, but it's accidentally because I ran out of color.
Oh, but you did such a good job of recovering from that, you
I
know,
mean,
so much.
is there truly like mistakes in knitting, or is it your interpretation of the project? So,
Right, absolutely, absolutely. It's your own design element. That's what
right.
they like to call it. I want to talk a little bit about your son's influence. I mean, I know that he uh, he models for you a lot of your projects. And the one thing I really love about him is that he will like he's a rock climber and he'll take your shawls rock climbing. Like he'll be hanging on the side of a mountain. And he'll have the shawl right there, and it's just
Right.
such an interesting shot. He's kind of influenced. Was that his idea to do those kind of pictures, or?
No, so that started with Romy Hill actually. So Romy Hill's son is modeling a lot of her shawls.
Mm-hmm.
And when she first started, she put some lacy shawl on him. And he's like basically like one of his ambitions is to be a professional model. So that's why he was doing it. So she put the lacy shawl on him and people start unfollowing her. And she got like very negative feedback that she is feminizing her son and she's using him. And so she posted about it and I don't know if she created it, but she used the hashtag man and show. And I thought it was so important to support somebody like that and not to have this image that there is something like feminine and wearing shawl. Because like if you think about it, if you look at old paintings in museums, men were wearing shawls, men were wearing lace, men were wearing long hair, so it's like,
They were even knitting.
right. Yeah, and men were the ones all the men knitting, the guilds were all male.
Hmm.
um, so I basically at that point I was, so one of people who were on my channel, Christopher McGovern, Professor Pearl, he jokes that I collect male knitters. And I mean, I don't collect them, but I really try to support male knitters.
Hmm.
And so when that thing happened with Romy Hill, I took all the male knitters I was following and I took their pictures and shawls and I put them all in my stories. So there was like hundreds of men wearing shawls with the men and shawl hashtag. And so
Hmm.
my son was like, "Oh, I'll model for you," and he was one of the men and shawls. So this is how it started. But he's like incredibly supportive. He always talks about my knitting. I made him a beanie. He's wearing that beanie in like every single photo shoot of his, like on the mountain. So yeah, and my youngest also sometimes models for me as well. So it's like all my kids doing that.
You have a built-in modeling aid group to model your shawls and other knit work as well. I love the pictures that he does. I think they're very interesting and just unique, and to see the pop of color with the rocks and then him hanging too. So it's a very talented rock climber. So it's really nice. Um, okay, here's something kind of interesting. Do you have? Okay, I know that you can't. Maybe you do. You watch knitting and crochet all the time. But do you ever watch you have like a guilty pleasure YouTube channel, something to just maybe make you laugh? Do you have something like that you might like to watch?
I love Martin from Knit 365. Like,
Mhm.
it's like I always have him on the, like, as soon as his episode comes out, I just jump and watch it. I don't know. Like, he could read dictionary and I would enjoy that.
Yeah, he's talented.
He's just so charming. He's like this teddy bear and he'll share everything about his nieces and nephews and his crocheting and his knitting, and he's just so infectious, like you want to do everything like he does. So I
Mhm.
love watching his podcast.
I do too. I like watching his podcast too, especially when he's doing like the West knit alongs, the mystery knit alongs and stuff there. And he does a really good update and
We actually were chatting about collaborating on the next Mystery Knit Along with him and maybe even with Steven West popping in.
Oh, that would be really great. I would love to see that. That would be great. And I loved that interview you did with Stephen West too. It's getting to see his dogs. That was so sweet. And
I really loved talking to him, and it was hard to convince him to come to my channel just because of the structure of my channel. So I don't write the questions beforehand.
okay.
I don't let anybody know what I'm going to ask because I don't know what I'm going to ask. I let the conversation lead me. So it's literally a chat. And his team wanted to know like what I'm going to ask. And so they were like a little bit nervous about agreeing to that because I mean, first of all, I'm a small channel, right? Secondly, it's Stephen West we're talking about, and I'm refusing to give him the so I was like very happy that he agreed, and I have crush on Stephen West for as long as I'm knitting, basically. A
Absolutely.
brilliant designer. But I found that it was very like my respect for him grew exponentially after this interview because I didn't ask him easy questions. Some of those questions were really thought provoking and not necessarily easy to answer. And I thought he did a brilliant job answering them.
He really did. If you guys haven't seen it, you really should go watch it. It was a really good insight into his designing, and things that he really doesn't share, but he was very open to share, and it was really
And you know what was the best compliment for me? So I interviewed a few people who like really close friends with Steven.
mhm.
One of them was Olga Jazzy. Another one was Charles Gandy, who I absolutely love. Like he's one of my favorite interviews, actually. And they both reached out to me after Steven's interview and they said, well, this is the Steven that we know and love. And I felt like that was the best compliment because there's a lot of interviews out there and you listen to the interview and you know a lot about the projects, but you don't know anything about the actual maker. And my goal with my channel is to show the maker and to show the person behind the craft.
And you do such a good job of it too. I've learned a lot more about some of these people that you've interviewed and what inspires them
Right.
and stuff. So it was really good. It was a really great interview, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm glad he agreed to come on, and you were able to interview him. You do a good job with interviewing. I mean, I'm not like you. I have to have notes. I'm not a off the cuff kind of brain person. It's just I have to kind of have some kind of notes in front of me, or I just don't do very well.
It's also a matter of practice, like everything else. When I started, I was trying to write down the questions, but then I found that those, like having those questions, actually distracts me from the conversation because I'm like trying to see what I already asked and what I haven't.
Hmm.
So it became like more organic that way.
We do have a couple more questions for
Sure.
you. Elise is asking, do you have other creative art forms like other than knitting?
I'm like I basically learned that I'm very crafty in general, but and I've done mosaics, I've done some cross stitching, some embroidery.
Hmm.
Um, Knitting probably is gonna be my lifelong passion.
Hmm.
Very interested in trying quilting because when I was a kid, I used to like hand sewing a lot. Or
Hmm.
even hand hemming was like my like best thing ever. Like just to hem something, and then I didn't even care about finishing it. I just enjoyed the hemming part of the. So I think like I would be good at hand quilting, and I'm fascinated with that. I interview a lot of quilters as well. Um, and I do love plants. I think I have like north of 80 house plants. So anything succulents, cacti, like I probably have them.
Oh, that'll be great. That'll be great. Stacy's asking, what are your favorite yarns to use? Merino, yak.
So one of my very favorite I mean, I love cashmere, but and I love cashmere for fine Shetland lace, even though it's not traditionally used and people think it doesn't hold shape. I find it hold shape just fine. Um, I love yak silk merino combination. It's just like so soft and so luxurious.
Hmm.
Um, I love merino, like in general. Like for most of the things I do is with the merino.
Yeah, it blocks so well. It just blocks. I like the blocking of it,
I
and
love supporting indie dyers, and I love interviewing indie dyers because I find they all like they're also different. Like some people, some indie dyers are like scientists and they know exact formula. They can replicate the same speckle on the speckle, and dye lots always match. And then there are like pure artists who like they every skein they create is just like a new piece of art, you know. So it's like it's very interesting for me, and I I buy a lot of hand dye yarn.
I love that. I love that. Let's see. And Vita is asking, is there any designer you've not been able to get to convince for an interview that you want to come on? Somebody you want to share? There's a lot. I mean,
The thing is, I'm trying not to go after the most famous people out there. Stephen West and like few others were the exception, just because I admire them so much and I really love meeting their stuff. But I'm trying to keep it as a platform for everybody and not just super famous designers.
mm-hmm.
However, I would not say no to Hohila Keteli. Like I would love to have her
Oh,
on my channel. And I'm trying to send her like I in communication with them now. So if she will agree, that would be very nice.
I think that she will. I think that's great. Barb of the Naughty Yarnies is saying, do you have a background in interviewing? Because you ask the best questions.
I actually don't, and it's to be honest, it was when I started, it was like so outside of my comfort zone. But I think it comes from my natural curiosity because I just like really want to know those answers. You know, I'm really curious about how the mind of the designer works. So like whatever I ask is usually what I really want to know.
Hmm.
Somehow it works, you know.
It does. It works great. And I think, like you said, when you're just doing a chat. So wherever the conversation goes is where you go. And it's really good. It's very interesting. Knitting Diaries is saying, are you planning on slowing down or taking any time off?
So Knitting Diaries is my bestest friend, David
Oh,
the Camp, the one that we open Knitters Gonna Knit with. And you guys should check out his YouTube channel. He's just starting with his YouTube channel. And yes, please join Knitters Gonna Knit while you're at that. I've been talking, he's making fun of me right now because I've been talking about trying to slow down for past 6 months. I've
mhm.
been posting 3 interviews per week,
Yes, you have.
which is like completely self-imposed stress. The thing is like there's so many talented people out there, it's hard to stop. And I'm being introduced like every time I would talk to somebody, they would be like, oh, have you talked to this person? So there's like all these connections that I'm getting, all these new people I'm meeting, so it's hard for me to slow down. But yeah, that's the dream, to like to slow down to maybe 2 interviews per week. And I'm also like the tomorrow's episode about the 4 shows that I'm posting. It's my tryout to see if I should do something like that, because
Hmm.
I'm wondering like if people getting tired of interviews. And you guys please tell me if you're getting tired of my interviews, and if it's a good idea to like start going in depth into like certain designs, like
Hmm.
something that I'm testing or something that I'm needing, if my presence by myself a good idea on the YouTube, or if I should be the interviewer. Like I'm trying to figure it all out, you know, because it's still I'm new at that.
I would think it would be interesting to hear both. I mean, you're such a good interviewer that I would hate for you to stop doing what you're doing because they're really good interviews. But I am fascinated by your work as well because you have such amazing lace work, and I would love to see that too. So if you want to work that in, I will be there.
Thank you.
Um, let's see. I hope I didn't miss anybody's questions, and thank you guys so much for coming today and asking questions. Debbie loves yarn, saying she never tires of the tour interviews, and I saw somebody else that said they love your channel as well. So you got all
Thank,
kinds of nice comments here. Keep them coming. Nancy's saying keep them coming. You're brilliant in interviewing.
thank you, Max.
So I think if nobody has any other questions. I think the only other thing I really had, unless you want to share something else.
Well, in 5 minutes, a new interview is going to come out on FiberChats. And I'm basically posting, as of right now, I'm posting every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. So in 5 minutes, my interview with Adele, she's a crocheter from Australia, and she actually concentrates on Australian animals. So those are like adorable, and she's amazing. So her interview is coming up in 5 minutes. And tomorrow at 12 is going to be the special feature of Monique Boonstra, Monique Drave, Debbie Chisholm, and Susie Golden. So they're going to be tomorrow. We're going to be talking about this show. This is the second one. And then the third one that I already showed. And the latest addition to this collection, the fourth one. So we're
Oh,
going to
wow.
be talking about all these shawls and their construction and the testing of them and all that jazz. So please join tomorrow. It's going to be posted at 12, so you can watch it after that.
Right, that is tomorrow, and you're going to get to see the all behind the scenes of that. We do have one more question. Somebody's saying, "Whoop, Australia rocks!" So they're excited about that. Let's see, Kaz is saying that. It's because she's from Australia. Okay, Stacy is saying, "How long does a project take on average?"
I mean, it's hard to say. It depends on the shape of the shawl. So if I'm doing rectangular shawl, it usually takes me about 6 weeks.
Hmm.
If it's square shawl, it takes probably at least 4 months to 5 months, depending on the size. Like the larger ones can be 6 months of like knitting just that, nothing else. And this shawl that's coming out tomorrow, it's actually going to be on Ravelry tomorrow, the fourth one. So
Okay.
it's a triangular shawl, but it's like really enormous. Like you can wrap yourself and your car and
Is there a name for that one? I know it's
well,
a passion for lace.
right. So it's called the fourth one. That's the name. So the whole
Okay.
collection is the one, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. This is the name
Okay.
of the shows. So the fourth one is going to be on Ravelry tomorrow. And
Mhm.
that show was like a year in the making because, and it wasn't because we were knitting it for a year, but basically the designer was adjusting the center as we were going. So it was like a year between the actual knitting and the finishing the design.
That's great. That is great. There's another question that says, "Do you knit every day?"
Well, if I don't, probably something awful is happening in my life. Usually, yes, like usually it's every day. I do knit mostly when like the Shetland lace, I can only knit with good natural light. I cannot knit it when it's dark. With
Right.
electric lights, it's just like blinding me. So when I do cobweb or gossamer, it's like usually with the natural light. So that limits it a little bit. But yes, yeah.
Every day or something's off. Well,
I'm yeah, addicted.
well, thank you again for spending time with us. And please don't forget, right after this, her on her channel on Fiber Chats. The link is at the top. Um, she's going to have a new show posting, and then tomorrow will be the about those four shawls. So please tune in, check it out. Amazing interviews. It was amazing spending time with you, learning more about you.
Thank you so much for asking me for this. Like I really enjoyed it.
Oh,
Thank you guys. Thank you for all your questions and thank you for your comments.
yeah, and go check out our Facebook group as well. I will come back and put a link underneath it. I know that Kaz was putting some links in there as well. And thank you, Kaz and staff, for moderating for us. For my live shows, I always like to kind of do a small little giveaway. So today, the giveaway, but we're going to do it on a replay. So I will pick a winner on the 14th of Saturday, but we're going to give away, since Irina's here, some lace yarn. This is Miss Bab's Wild Silk Lace Yarn. And it also, this is 1,080 yards. It is Tussa Silk, 100% Tussa Silk. And there's also this little mini skein that comes with it as well. Same yarn, Wild Silk, Tussa Silk. This is 218 yards. So you could pair it together with a little color as well. And so what you need to do if you want to participate to win the yarn, you just need to put a comment under this video after this show is over. Come back and put a comment. And I want you guys to put Irina's name in the comment and maybe share what you enjoyed about this interview. And we'll just do that today. And again, thank you so much. Happy Mother's Day to you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you.
And happy Mother's Day to everybody watching. And I hope we all have a wonderful day. And we will see you all very, very soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. It was my pleasure.